Rockingham County government presents You've Got Grit. You've Got Grit. Wanda Harley from the heart of Reidsville. Oprah Winfrey's quote describes grit. The key to realizing a dream is to focus not on success, but on significance. And then even the small steps and little victories along your path will take on greater meaning. You've Got Grit. Wanda Harley. Please tell us why you describe yourself as being from the heart of Reidsville.
I say I'm actually from the heart of Reidsville because I'm right there in the town part, right there not far from the actual town of Reidsville, right there where there's City Hall, the police department, and right where the train goes through the middle of the town. So I call when anybody asks me that not familiar with the area or even familiar with the area, where do you stay? I say right in the heart of Reidsville.
Are you from Reidsville?
Yes, I am. Born and reared right here in Reidsville, North Carolina.
What was it like growing up in Reidsville?
Well, I can say that I had a good life growing up, really. Growing up in Reidsville wasn't bad. It really, I can't honestly say that I have really any real bad experiences. You know, recently there's been a lot of attention drawn to systemic racism, and we did have that in Reidsville. I did experience that growing up. But you know, when you're a child, things like that go over your head. When you're a child, you don't really realize what's happening until you get grown, and you say, oh wow, is this what was happening?
Do you think your parents helped to give you structure and a foundation to make it through no matter what?
I think they did the best that they could, the best of their ability during the times. They did the best they could. Like I said, when you really in adulthood, you realize a lot of things when you were a child that kind of went over your head. I think God protects children like that. I was just discussing with a friend of mine, you know, in church there's a song that they sing, and you'll understand it better by and by, and you do understand it better as you get older.
What about your educational background? High school, college?
Okay, I actually finished high school here in Reidsville at Booker T. Washington High School. Our class was the last graduating class from that high school. After the 1969 segregation was mandated. So we're the historic class of the Booker T. Washington High School here in Reidsville, North Carolina, 1969. And we're still going strong. We're still going strong now. We give back to the community, and we have our meetings and our reunions. And then I actually went to school in Winston-Salem for 2 years, for 2.5 years. Actually, at Winston-Salem State University, my father had a heart attack, and I came back home to help out with the family. Came back, got a job at Wachovia Bank at that time to help out with the family.
And what about your career?
Okay, I actually ended up marrying. I married a Reidsville boy, Jerry Harley. Actually, Jerry lived in Greensboro at that time. So when we got married, I moved to Greensboro, and I worked at Prudential Insurance Company. And we stayed there actually until we got ready to have our second child, my son. And my parents and his mother talked us into moving back to Reidsville. They kept saying, you know, we have houses over here in the family here in Reidsville, and the cost of you getting ready to have a second child, the cost of living in Reidsville is probably not as expensive as it is there in Greensboro. So they talked us into moving back to Reidsville, to one of the houses that was in the family. So we did. So we've been here. We've actually been here back here in Reidsville now 33 years. So we did move back to Reidsville. So when I moved back to Reidsville, I got a job in the school system, and I worked in the school system for some years. And then I ended up going back into the insurance business, which I still continued to do insurance while I worked at the schools because I was out in the summers. So I would do insurance in the summers, in the summertime. Then so I actually got a job in the school system, and I left the school system, went back into insurance because, again, a time I found that my family needed me. My mother was sick at that time, so she needed help. She needed my help. So when I left the school system, went back in insurance, they gave me the flexibility to still work and spend time with my mother.
What about your community involvement?
Okay, I was while my kids were in school, I was very active with school, with their activities in school, very active with the PTAs, and very, very active with my kids' activity. I became a member of the Reedsville Human Relations Commission, which I still am, and I actually was very active with the Neighborhood Watch Group because our neighborhood was pretty old neighborhood, so I got really active with trying to keep that community thriving with the Neighborhood Watch Group.
Why is it important for people to be involved in community?
Well, you have to decide if you're going to be a player or if you're going to sit on the sidelines and just watch and complain. Now, I decided to get active in the Human Relations Commission. My neighbor and I were sitting around just complaining one day. And so I grabbed one of the city council members one day, which happened to be my cousin. His name was George Rucker. I grabbed him one day and I was telling him what was going on in the community that we didn't like. And he said, well, cuz, why don't you get on one of the commissions and just give your input about what you see wrong and what you suggest we could do to make it right. And there were several commissions at that time that I could have joined. The Appearance Commission was really one that I was interested in, but he talked me into going with the Human Relations Commission, and I did, and I do not regret that, because we've been active with a lot of things here in the community, such as we had fair housing workshops to educate people on how to buy houses, how to get financing. We've had, at one time when there was a really bad gang problem in Reedsville, we had gang forums to let parents, to educate parents on how to identify if their kids were active in gang membership. We've had parenting skills workshop. We do a lot for the community. Right now, we're active with the Martin Luther King event that will happen in January. We are actually, along with the Human Relations Commission, the Chamber of Commerce, and the NAACP, has actually sponsored that event for 23 years. Now, we normally have a breakfast, and we have generous local merchants that donate funds that we use toward 2 scholarships every year to 2 students to go to Rockingham Community College. So the funds that are donated are kept here in the county.
How would you motivate someone to get more involved in the community? What would you say to them?
Instead of just sitting around complaining, just get active. Do like I did. If you see some things going on, just grab the mayor or one of the city council members or somebody in city government and let them know what you're thinking, your ideas. And they might do like George Rucker did with me. Why don't you just get active? Get active and give us your input and see what you can do to help change things.
And why do you love Rockingham County?
This is my home. This is where I know people. This is where people know me. like I said, born and reared here. I lived in Winston for a short period of time. In the summers, I had a grandfather that lived in Baltimore, Maryland. In the summers, we would go visit my grandfather. And at one time, he was talking about me coming there to stay with him and go to, I believe it's Morgan State, there in Maryland. But he changed that. He said, no, I don't know about you. He said, it's fast up, too fast paced up here. You're a country girl. I don't know if you'll survive up here. So I didn't end up in Baltimore. I didn't end up staying in Winston. We didn't end up staying in Greensboro. Of course, I still go back and forth to Greensboro because my office that I work from is there in Greensboro. So I don't go as much since we've had this pandemic and social distancing going on. But I still go back and forth to Greensboro. I still love Greensboro, and my church is there in Greensboro. But this is where I told a lady one night, we were at a Human Relations Commission meeting, and I think they were asking those same questions. And I said, you know what, I've accepted the fact that Reedsville must be my destiny. So this is where I was born. This is where, my parents were from here, my family, friends, classmates. Like I said, this is what I know. This is where I'm known.
Wanda Harley, you've got grit. Wanda Harley, from the heart of Reedsville. We bet you know someone who you describe by saying, you've got grit. Email a paragraph describing someone who you think Spectrum 1304 and Rockingham County government should interview for You've Got Grit. Simply email your paragraph to mscott@co.rockingham.nc.us. That's mscott@co.rockingham.nc.us. Thanks for checking out You've Got Grit.